So just to set the room for those who are here, we're very grateful that you're doing these Q&As, Bindaji, so that everybody knows they'll happen every Saturday and Sunday at the same time, which is 9 p.m. IST. And to remind people, there's also another house called Advaita Vedanta Satsang, which anyone can join, Advaita Vedanta Satsang, and that Bindaji's doing classes every Wednesday and every Friday, starting a half hour earlier, which is 8:30 IST, and that these rooms are for questions for Bindaji. These two Saturday Q&As for questions for Bindaji related to spirituality and Advaita. And just so that people know, the room goes about an hour in respect of Bindaji's schedule. And so shortly before that, I'll close down hand raising and try to be respectful of people wanting to speak. But if you have follow-ups and it develops naturally, that's fine. And then I just want to mention before I turn it back to you, Bindaji, that yesterday there was some long discussion and Prakash had been waiting. So Prakash will be the first person to have an opportunity to ask a question and talk with you if he wants to. Do you want to say more, Bindaji, or do you just want to go ahead and start?
I think let us go ahead. Hariom Prakash.
I always come back to the concept of sadhana and practice, So what would be the, on a daily basis, what is the few things you would recommend in terms of sadhana? That, people think about sitting in meditation, doing some chanting or reading some Upanishad, or what would, I want to see what you have to say about sadhana.
Well, it all depends upon, Prakash, how your mental makeup is, or anyone's mental makeup for that matter is. People are of different mental caliber. So according to each one of their potencies or, comfort level, I would use the word comfort level rather than potencies, that they should identify it within themselves, what suits them the best. So it is not any way one is lower than the other or any inferior, superior, gradation, anything of that sort. It is basically according to the, capability of the individual's mental framework. So there are methods like Nama Japa, that is chanting a favorite God's name, and then meditation is there, another one. And meditation are of two types. One is, Nirguna Upasana and Saguna Upasana. Both can be equally effective. And then if you move more towards Advaita, reading Upanishads, listening to Upanishadic talks, and then doing a lot of manana and nididhyasana on those readings or listening. These are the basic instruments for sadhana as per se. But then there is another set of sadhana which I won't recommend to everyone, is where, stilling your mind without any prop. That is by observing your mind itself and going to the very beginning of a thought, where the thought is, propping up. Normally, ekagram, the word ekagram means one-pointedness. And agram also has got another meaning, is end. So the one end of the mind is in the object. The other end is in the mind, which is connected to the subject, because it identifies with the subject. The mind identifies himself with the subject. So when we look at the other end as the object, the Vishaya, what we call it as object, it can be internal object or external object. So when you go normally that it is beginning to start this practice, one is the best way is to singularize that object instead of multiple objects being observed by the mind. Singularize the object to any one of the whichever you can hold your mind for a long time, because that object is of interest to you. It can be a form of a god or a scenic beauty or a waterfall or a sound or any of that type of a thing. It can be a sound of a chime. Anything can be that used for it. But there the problem is that mind will not remain in that one object for long, because it will immediately start jumping. To avoid that, the best method is to get into the description of the object itself, because the description itself, even though it is related to the object, you have the definitions on descriptions, in the sense that the 5 sense organs can measure the 5 different aspects of the same object. For example, if it is a talk, you can get into the details of the talk, into the meaning, sometimes the diction, sometimes into the vocabulary, sometimes into the inner meaning of the words which is being used. Suppose if it is a waterfall or a chime, then you can get into the different aspects of those waterfall or chime, etc. But ultimately you have to reduce them into one aspect of that object. Suppose if it is a chime, it is a sound alone, or waterfall, there also you have different things, that is the vision of the waterfall and the sound of the waterfall. So you have to choose between the two of any one of them, and then reduce it to single pointedness. So thereby narrowing, when you are doing all those things, even what happens is that mind becomes stiller and more quiet, and focuses on that aspect. And then you will move that from that stillness of that object created mind to the object, releasing the object more to the nature of the mind itself. How the mind is now become quiet, which otherwise it was not. That nature of the mind which has become now quiet is one thing which we have to identify and develop it, because initially it will not be easy for us to develop that. But over a period of practice, this is why sadhana is a practice. We will be able to develop that stillness of the mind without even an object. And as soon as we sit there without the object, when we sit onto that, when we focus on the stillness of the mind, we will be able to see the mind like a clear lake, where it can see through to the source of the mind itself. And the source of the mind itself is the self in all of us. That is how we can go from the external to the internal mind, and to the mind to the beyond the mind. But here we have to understand that when we say stillness of the mind, the stillness itself has got variations. So that has to be also kept in mind. And when it says that it is to see through the mind to the source of Atma, that will come much later in the practice. And that is the time when you are almost sure that you are the Atma. And then when you are looking through the stillness of the mind, you are almost looking into the mirror of yourself. Through the mind becomes a mirror for looking at yourself. These things will come only through practice. And any amount of my description will not give you a clarity of the thought, but a more dedicated and devoted practice can take you there.
Thank you, Binduji. Because this I think is kind of once you get some clarity, I think having this either oneself or a small community where one can practice becomes an essential part of that growth. Thank you.
Sure, definitely. The group will definitely help you to clarify your doubts in the process, but ultimately the journey is all by yourself.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
That was beautiful. Actually, Bindaji, that was very closely related to how the discussion was going in that room about the Atman that you were asking, the way you spoke. Yeah. Srini or Raj, do either one of you want to ask questions? I don't want to assume, otherwise we'll go on down to SK.
You can go ahead, Dr. Michelle. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, the two of you. Raj?
Yeah, actually, there is a question by Abhiji, and I think he says that he is not very good with the English language, so maybe he's not coming up. But Binduji, there is this shloka in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, verse 2.3.1, which is like Dve Vav Brahmano Rupe Murtam Chaiva Murtam Cha Martyam Chamritam Cha Sthitam Cha Yaccha Satcha Tyaccha. Like, with the translation is given that Brahman has but two forms, gross and subtle, mortal and immortal, limited and unlimited, defined and undefined. So Abhiji was wanting that if you could please explain this verse, especially in the context of Advaita. Thank you, sir.
Abhiji, which language will you be comfortable?
Hindi. Sir.
I see, okay. So let me, for the benefit of everyone, let me answer in English. If you are not able to understand, please let me know so that I can
I think he understands
repeat.
English, but he has a problem in speaking it.
Okay, no problem. Okay, this particular mantra in the Brihadaranya is coming in the Upasana Kanda, even though it is in the part in the Brihadaranya Upanishad. It is basically to help the inquirer or the sadhak to start with. There are both the forms are available, that is Nirguna and Saguna, that is the Murtam Cha Murtam Cha, that is what it is standing for. And same way the description is all about, there are both the forms are of Brahman, because after all Brahman is everything. So whether you start with a Saguna form, and there is, in fact, there are a lot of people fighting that Nirguna and Saguna, and those who are fighting for Sarguna and Nirguna, I will call them fools, because both of them are Saguna and Nirguna are the Brahman's Rupam only. Doesn't mean Saguna is different from Nirguna, Nirguna is different from Saguna. It is the way in which one has to understand and move from one to, but ultimately come to the point that what is the definition of Sa Ekaha? There is only one Brahman. That is the most important aspect. Whether you go through the Saguna aspect of Brahman or Nirguna aspect of Brahman, you have to reach to that after abandoning both. Because the Guna Paras aspect itself is one thing which has to be devoid of when you come to the Brahman. Because Kevalo Nirgunascha. Because it is Kevalaha and Nirgunaha. So both ways you have to even abandon the Saguna and Nirguna aspect of Brahman to come to the pure Brahman level. So the initial Saguna Upasana Kanda recommends these different aspects of whether you start with a Saguna, Murta Rupa, or all the different categories which are there in the earlier Upasana Kandas that can be utilized for proceeding to the Upasana. Through the Upasana, you come to the Jnana, and in the Jnana level, you will abandon both Saguna and Nirguna, and you will be in the Kevala Bhava, where Brahman alone is the reality.
Thank you, Binduji.
Yeah, thanks, Raj, for bringing that forward. All right, SK, did you want to speak?
Maybe in 5 minutes. I'll go after Spicy then.
Okay, Spice.
No, nothing. I just like when Binduji said about sadhana being the pure form of practice. And one more thing I found effective when Binduji said that, when you want to quieten your mind and do something, when you focus on one object. I think if you do Trataka, that helps, but it takes a long time, and as Binduji said, that mind wanders off. I think after years of practice also, a sadhak can do Trataka for 2 to 3 minutes maximum. But it does clarify and stabilizes your mind. So yeah, all those practices what Binduji mentioned were amazing, beautiful and up to the line. So yeah, thank you for that, Binduji. And how are you? That's the one more question I wanted to ask you.
I'm fine. I'm doing fine. Thank you, Spice. I specifically didn't use the word Tarataka, etc., not to, take people to, inquiries into those areas. Practice, the methodology is more important than the terminologies.
True, very true, Binduji.
Okay. Hello, Binduji. I have
Yes,
many
Jay.
questions.
Many questions.
Thank you.
Prior,
I know.
Jai, your questions are very. Binduji, before that, today we met, Vinodji, myself, Shrini, Venkat, and everybody. And yesterday, Deep was also. It might have been a slip of tongue. Yesterday, you said something about Turiya and appearance. Even Turiya is also appearance. Okay, I think people have little confusion about that. You can clarify and you can proceed with Jai questions, I think. Today it was, just came for a discussion. I said it might have been a slip of a tongue. I don't know. Even I could not re-listen to the episode, yesterday's discussion.
Jai, just hold on, Jai, 1 minute.
Sure.
Okay. The question was from Karin. She asked me, the appearance also Turiya, or Turiya is also appearance. I said yes. The answer was yes, because the appearances are not different from Brahman. Turiya and Brahman are the same. I think I clarified it in the room itself, that the Brahman and Turiya are not two separate things, and the appearances and the real Brahman in which the appearances are appearing cannot be different, two separate things. So when I answered to Karin, I said that appearances also Turiya is from the point of view Turiya and Brahman are the same, and the appearances are Brahman. After all, everything is Brahman only. There is only one, and that is Brahman. And if there is a multiplicity which is being seen, it is due to the appearances, and if it is becoming real to somebody, it is because he doesn't know the reality of Brahman, so the appearances become real and multiplicity becomes real. That is how it has to be understood.
The question was, appearance Turiya is appearance.
Yeah, both ways, Turiya is appearances, and appearances are nothing but Turiya.
Okay, that's your explanation. Fine. There was a little confusion about that. That's why I asked.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah.
There cannot be two in Advaita. That is a basic.
Oh, that's fine. When we say even, we need not to say appearance, only Brahman.
No, when somebody has got appearance and want to know the reality of appearance, the reality of appearance is nothing but Brahman.
Just as a one who sees appearance, it simply means that they have not yet seen that Brahman then.
No, that is why Vasudeva Sarvamiti, that bhava cannot come unless Sarvam is seen and the Sarvam is Vasudeva, or Sarvam Khalu Idam Brahma. That is also saying the same. The word Sarvam is used only for the purpose of appearance, or Jagaditam, Idam Sarvam. And when you say Aham Eva Idam Sarvam, then the Aham and Brahman, Turiya, all the names which you want to use for Brahman is applicable for the appearances also.
Yeah, in case of Sarvam Khalu Idu Brahma, in case of Vasudeva Sarvam Idam, that's absolutely fine. There is no doubt about such things. But in case of Kevala Advaita, when we take the stand as Turiya, if one is seeing the appearance in Turiya, appearance is also Brahman and Turiya is also Brahman. So, according to you, Turiya itself is appearing, and there is no difference between appearance and Turiya and appearance in any way, vice versa.
Yep.
Okay, fine. Thank you, Binod. Thank you. Yeah, Jai, please.
Yeah, that's what I said, the example of the waves and the ocean. The waves are appearing in the ocean. It's nothing but ocean only.
Yeah,
but the appearance of the ocean, is there, no?
Okay, Binduji, I'll continue with yesterday's, my last question. And also, Binduji, most of my questions are for your, additional validation and point of view. Okay, now, few months ago, I understood one thing which I should have understood long time ago, that the definitions of buddhi and viveka. Now, buddhi is for social interaction, for survival, what is right and what is wrong, and so many things for body, mind, mostly at the service of ahankara or whatever, for the survival purpose only, this buddhi is needed. But this viveka is what is the small in sense, more critical, the most critical, most important thing to know what is real and what is unreal. So now, in buddhi, we can use it whatever the convenient way we want in the society. It is no big deal. But our razor sharp focus should be to know what is real and what is unreal. So basically, is this point of view correct? And then whole of Advaita is like just using this viveka to see what is real, what is unreal. But when it comes to the buddhi, which is for the social interactions, for the physical interaction with the physical world, there are infinite variations. But then that and all is immaterial. It is okay. It is Maya. Whatever happens is okay. You are a poor guy, rich guy, whatever social, you work hard, work lazy, everything. But fundamentally, be good, do good is good. So, is this point of view correct, Binduji?
Yeah, the definition of viveka of yours is correct. But don't say buddhi for the social interaction alone. But that is called andakarana. It will be a better way to use that inner instrument, which has got mano, buddhi, ahankara, chitta as the four ways in which they function. So buddhi is only one aspect where logic is used, whereas mind is used for emotions and thoughts and feelings. Then you have chitta. That chitta is the memory and vasanas. And ahankara is basically the mind and mindness, that association of that, the ego. So all these things are placed in the antakarana, and all the four are required for social interaction. Whereas viveka is a part of the buddhi, specifically of buddhi, logic part of it, to know which is nitya vastu viveka, is what is called as the nitya vastu viveka. This is used by the logical aspect of it, which is called the buddhi, right? But not only for the viveka part of it, but it can be used for our social aspect of, logical analysis, arriving at conclusions and etc. also. But that alone is not buddhi. Buddhi is one aspect of the antakarana, and of the buddhi, viveka is the specific aspect of logic to differentiate between the nitya and anitya, out of which you will develop vairagya.
Okay, wow. This is very interesting and surprising for me, Binduji. So, this Viveka, I thought, is the most important and core thing to start the journey of Advaita. But it is just a part of Buddhi, which is like, an Antakarana. I'm just surprised to hear this. So I'm just would like you revalidation. So however much of Buddhi one has got, like whole of encyclopedia, whole of Wikipedia, whole of YouTube, even if they've got that knowledge, but if they don't have Viveka, even a little bit of Viveka, which is actually not huge, that Viveka, then the whole Antakarana is starting in illusion and dying in illusion then.
You're right.
Wow.
See, over a period, there is a verse in the Mundaka Upanishad. Pariksha lokan karmachitan brahmana nirvedamayat nastya agrita kritena. So what does it say? Pariksha lokan, by examining the world of experiences, lokan means world of experiences. Karmachitan, who have been doing karma for the donkey's years. Nirvedamaya, they came to a conclusion of Vairagya that Nasti Agrita Kridena, whatever is by karma, you can only get a result of what can be produced by karma. What is beyond karma, that is Akritaha, that is Brahman and Atman is Akritaha. It is not a result of a product of an action. It is not a outcome of an action to do an action and to create Atma or Brahman. Therefore, they come to a conclusion that any amount of action cannot lead to Brahman or Atman. So, then, tad vijnanartham sa gurumeva bigachet samitpani shostriyam brahmanishtam. For knowing that, they approaches the Guru to know what is Brahman. Because they found that karma cannot tell them and give them the detail or the knowledge of Brahman. That is what the shloka says. So here you have to understand the Viveka and Vairagya has to develop in such a person after having traveled in the delusion in donkey's years. They come to a conclusion that I have still not known who am I or what is my real nature. That's Atma is, what is this Atma? That knowledge has not arisen in them. So they approach as a guru for that purpose.
Okay, Binduji. So, Viveka is the key then. I mean, even you could have a big palace or a bungalow, that small key is what opens the whole thing. Thank you. That helps me. Binduji, now you said this Antakarana has got these 4 components. One of them is Chitta. But yesterday you said this Chitta is actually the whole universal emptiness, nameless, timeless thing. And that one singular thing. So,
okay. Sorry, Jay. Yesterday I should have clarified it. The word Chitta is Chitta with a. The Chit is there. Chit is different from Chitta. And the word Chitta and Chit have to be understood in its context under which it is there. Sat Chit Ananda, there the Chit is the Brahman's name in the indicative Lakshana. That is where I said Chidakasha is Chit Akasha. That is why Chidakasha I have mentioned yesterday. Whereas Chitta is the storage memory of my Antakarana, where our vasanas and memories are stored. That is a different aspect of the mind itself, Antakarana. Whereas it is not the Lakshana of Brahman. Okay, so word Chitta and Chit has to be understood separately.
Oh, okay, and they are hugely different. Thank you. Okay, I was... okay, that clarifies this part. And just a quick summary of about whether Atman is what's that concept or not. I saw that, and my take on that is that see, with mind we can only know concepts, and So whether what, and yesterday as you guided me and us, it's all placeholders, and placeholders are not real. So there is no point discussing about this. Is what I got this insight. So this mind is a tool which is like darkness, which is trying to see the sun. It can never, right?
Right. Mind is like I would rather use a example of the pole and the pole vault. The pole is required for you to go across the bar, but the moment you know that you are across the bar, you don't need the pole anymore. You push the pole from where you came and you jump to the other side. That is the example I would use.
Thank you. Patrick and SK, until you tell me to stop, I'll go ahead.
Yeah, wonderful inquiry, Jay. It's nice to hear this. So please continue as long as Bindo and Artemisha are good. So nice to hear these questions from you.
Yeah, they're good questions, and it's good that you're keeping them a little bit shorter. We do want to give some time to other people, so pick
That's
what's
what
important.
Okay, let me stop for a minute. If SK, you don't have a question, I'm going to continue.
Yeah. So, Binduji, this Viveka is about Nitya, Anitya.
Yes. Nitya and
Whatever is
Anitya
being
Vastu
observed.
Viveka is. In Vastu means object.
Correct.
Not subject.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
in the objects, whichever is permanent and impermanent is to be separated by the faculty of the intellect by knowing which is permanent, which is impermanent. So all impermanent things which is in that space and time have to be abandoned, and you should look for what is permanent relatively in them and move. You will find them, even though relatively there is permanency, still they are impermanent, and what is ultimately permanent, there is only one thing which is permanent, Nityaha. That Nityaha is Brahma, Atma.
Yeah. But the problem is on that Nityaha, I cannot have the conclusion, right? Because say again, post death, I don't know what really would happen, right? Again, death is not something we are going to see, there is enough anumana that something like death happens, right? Binduji? So because we see a lot of people who were alive someday and then they're not, right? So in that case, since I say that, okay, I will also go away from that day, I cannot really, if I continue on the same viveka that I have for the object and I try to apply it on the subject, there I cannot really be 100% sure that even the subject survives post death, right? But then how?
Yeah, in your question itself, you have answered that. Death is that I feel that death is of what? Of the body. You are seeing the death of the other person's body only. You are not seeing what happens to his Atma, right? So you assume that he is dying along with the body and Atma is also dead along with the body. Is it what is your conclusion is from what you said? Is it?
More than a conclusion, Binduji, it is actually something that I am saying that I don't have the capability to answer one way or the other.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that is where the Upanishad and the Shastras come to help, because nowhere else they teach about Atma and the reality of life in the whole human literature, what you want to name it, whether it is in any language for that matter. Only Upanishads are capable of telling you what is the reality of it. And what does the Upanishad tell you? Upanishad teaches us that there is Atma and Brahma are the one. I am Atma, Brahma. So there is first and foremost thing which you have to understand, that this Atma and Brahma are the same. Now what is the quality of Brahma? Sarvam Khalu Idam Brahma. Everything what you are seeing is Brahman, but at the same time you are seeing there is beginning and end for things in the waking. In the waking in the form of experiences, they are all beginning and end. And then there is also beginning and end in your dream experiences. So objects appear and this dreamer appear and disappear. So what happens to the dreamer, whether he dies or not, in the dream ends, the dreamer is no more there. So we do not know what happened to the dreamer. No, we know what happened to the dreamer. We had become the dreamer at that time. Now we do not have a similar experience in our waking. We go out of waking, but we do not know what happened to the waker when we are not in the waking. But we presume that the waker is a continuity, and we think that that is the only reality in the world. And we cling on to that because of our continuity experience of the world and the objects in the world being repetitive in nature. But if you look at closely, there is no difference between the dream and the waking. Experiences come and go, and they come and go in the time and space. And there is a situation which is similar to death, which we go through every time when we go to deep sleep. That time we do not know who we are. We are alive or dead. We do not know whether male, female, which place, what time, no space, male, female, death, birth, nothing is known. At the same time, we cannot deny that we also died or we did not exist, because we come back to the waking and say, I had a good sleep. The experience of good sleep was experienced by somebody. It is not the mind which is experienced, because the mind was not there. If mind had been there, that experiences would have been there in multiple nature. So our experience of not having multiplicity or not having our own nature of ego shows very well, there is some experiencer, a subject which is there, which cannot experience, explain or anything at that time while experiencing, but only recollects it as a good sleep when he wakes up in the waking. Now this aspect of the deep sleep personality coming to the waking and giving rise to the experience of objectlessness experience, the subject alone remains, is now logically established, and by memory of the absence of the experiencer as a mind is established that we did exist, and we could not deny our negation. Now Shastra says that death and deep sleep are identical, and there is very clear explanation to that, given that what happens in the death is exactly what happens in deep sleep. In both the cases, the experiencer alone remains. Only the difference is the deep sleeper comes back to the waking and dream, whereas in the case of a death of a body, that body doesn't have the faculties of mind and sense organs to function because prana is not there. So that person cannot come back to explain the things. That's all. This is there in the Shastra. So from the point of view, we have to understand that we can, a trial which we cannot take because we cannot come back and explain, we will not be in a position to explain it. So there we take the Shastra as a pramanam. Tasmas Shastram pramanam te karya karya vivartayo. So Krishna has said that whenever you have a doubt in the what is the karya and akarya, which is such place, only you have to resort to Shastra, and Shastra has the answer for it. So that is what we have been insisting upon, that the Shastra is the ultimate place where it talks about our true nature and the true nature of everything in this world, Brahman.
Yeah, thanks, Binodji.
Are you sure you didn't have any follow-up, SK? You're good?
Yeah, I'm good, Division.
I asked Bharata to come up because he did post a question in the chat that relates to what was spoken before. I'd like to go back to that actually for the benefit of everyone. Jadaveda brought it up also. Bindaji. So I'm going to try to see if I can understand what the question is. So it's still on this statement that you made to Karen yesterday. So first I'll just quickly read what Bharataji wrote, and then I'm going to give my own interpretation of maybe what the question is. He says, our appearance is real. Then later he says, then appearances can't be Turiya. Then he says, it references to the question you answered yesterday. What I'm thinking might be happening from the rooms I was in afterwards is these two things. People take the 4 states in the Mandukya very seriously. Again, I'm just trying to understand other people. And so they tend to think that the things that are pointed out, Turiya, deep sleep, dreaming, and the waking state, are somehow real. They don't really yet see that this is sometimes you use the word like nomenclature. This is a model in the waking state, and itself is ultimately just an idea in the mind. But then people, so they're holding on to the Turiya there. But then also, people think when they're looking, say, at Mandukya, they think of Turiya as the same as awareness. And then they hear the statements such as, at a certain stage on the path, I am awareness, and that's the thing that's real. So how could it just be an appearance? So that's my best to understand the things I've heard the last 24 hours, but I think it would be good if you tried to say a little bit more before we move on, because people are really stuck here.
Okay. First of all, we have to have a clear understanding what Mandukya wants to convey to us. Chaturtham manyante sa atma sa vitneyaha is the end of the 7th mantra. What is this means? Chaturtham manyante. It is considered to be the 4th, and in reality there is no 4th. When Shankaracharya explains in his Bhashya, he says that it is not like the 4 legs of a cow, but it is the 4 quarters of a pound or whatever coin you have, sterling or dollar or whatever it is. So it is the 3 quarters do not make the complete coin. But the moment the 4th quarter comes, it is replaced by the full coin. So you cannot say the 4th one is real, only real. Our 4th one is actually is the one which is making it full. But actually speaking, which is the 4th one? The first one, second one, third one, or the 4th one? We should not be in a position to categorize them. What the Upanishad wants us to understand is that the substratum for the 1, 2, and 3, the Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti, the substratum is the 4th one. Without the substratum, neither the Jagrat, nor the dream, nor the deep sleep is really existing. That existence of the Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti is understood by becoming the witness to the 3, but the witness is present in the Jagrat, witness is present in the dream, witness is present in the deep sleep. So the witness cannot be taken out as a 4th one separate from the experiences. So Mandukya very clearly says it is considered to be the 4th one, sa atma sa vitneyaha, and that is the atma, and that should be known. And that definition of Atma is, it is neither anda pratnyam, na bahi pratnyam, no veda pratnyam, na pratnyam, na pratnyam, na pratyanaganam. All those definitions we have studied in detail, so I don't want to get into that again. What does it show? That in no way you can pinpoint that witness as a pratnya of any of experiences of the waking, dream, or deep sleep. It is not the awareness of waking, dream, or deep sleep, but it is pure awareness without any dream, deep sleep, or waking. That is the Turiya, what we are talking about, which is the substratum. And that substratum is Sa Atma, and that Atma and Brahman are not different. When Atman and Brahman are not different, whatever is in the Brahman is holding good for Atman also. So when we say we are having the appearances or we are seeing the appearances, it is not the individual ego who is seeing the appearances. The individual appearances seen by the individual is the one which he thinks it is real. But the same Atma, which is now having the appearances, is seeing the appearances in itself. Brahman is having the appearance in itself, and that appearances are not separate from Brahman. It is not separate from Atma. The waves are not separate from the ocean. Same way, the appearances is Brahman and is seen as Brahman only the person who sees Brahman as his real nature. The person who sees Brahman as theoretical knowledge, as a bookish knowledge, for him, Brahman is a concept or a theory in the book. For him, his ego and his, vision of appearances are real. For him, the appearances are not Brahman, but they are as real as his ego. Only when the ego goes and he merges with the appearance or he merges with the Brahman, he understands that I am the Brahman, the appearance as Brahman, Sarvam Khalu Idam Brahma, Vasudeva Sarvamiti, all this becomes reality only when after transposing oneself into that Brahman state. Until and unless, if you are holding on to your ego and trying to evaluate your appearances, you will see the appearances as real because your ego is real. And it is your ego which is seeing the appearances as real. Unless you know that you are the Atman, you will not see the appearances as Brahman and Vasudeva Sarvamiti.
Right. Okay. And again, I apologize to everyone, especially Jay. I think we need to make sure that people who haven't spoken get a chance. But just on that, to wrap it up, Bharataji wrote more in the chat, and I think where he may have been coming from then was many times when you've talked about how if the world is adhyasa is present for the way one is at that point, and they're seeing it as real, then the appearance is actually not real, but the experience of the appearance is. And maybe Bharata could go back to some of that. Am I on track with you, Bindo? And then you also just now discussed going beyond that, correct?
Yes, you're
okay.
right.
Okay, good. So I could even talk to Bharataji, or any of us could, about that. Patrick's very good at it, about the adhyasa is not real, but the experience of it is. Madir, I think you should jump in because I know this is exactly the conversation you're talking about probably.
I just wanted to add a small clarification on the Turiya part for myself. So Turiya is considered as the fourth and denied as separate from the other three. With that, we must also let go of the idea of substratum. Is that correct?
Yes, the substratum is there only when the three are there. When the three becomes the part of the substratum, not separate from the substratum also is not required.
Thank you, Vindu.
Beautiful. Okay, we do want to be able to close within about 5 minutes. So back to you, Jay, but just realize we really are staying on that timeline. Yeah, use it as you wish.
Sure. Thank you. Quick, Binduji, yesterday, when you briefed about the placeholder for Dhyan and I amness, I have to tell you that, after listening to you, I muted myself and there was uncontrollable sobbing. I don't know, your words touched somewhere inside me for many minutes. There was so much tears in me and I was shaking and sobbing. I think that is one of the proof that, what you said, affected me. And yeah, thanks for that. I just want to quickly share with you. Otherwise, generally, I don't cry. Even when my grandfather died, everybody's like, why there's no tears in you? Because I generally don't cry. But yesterday you spoke there was uncontrollable sobbing. I had here muted. So thank you. one more thing I would like to add. My next question, Binduji, is that a few months ago, I understood that actually we cannot know anything. The only thing we can do is, we represent many things. When I say I know maths or I know cooking and all, it is just a representation or memory in my mind which is stored and comes out. But it is all represented, unconscious and habits. So the actual knowing, I think we cannot know anything. So what do you think of the statement that it's in reality we cannot know anything, right, Binduji?
There are two types of knowing which should be clearly understood, Jai. The transactional world of knowing, which is what you said, maths and cooking, etc., are all in the transactional world of knowing. That knowing is mostly a antakarana vritti, is of the inner organs of ours like manobuddhi, ahankara, chitta. But the knowing of oneself is not by antakarana. It is by being it. You become the knowledge, you become the knower. There is no knowledge and knower difference between the two. So your knowing is not separate from the being. That is the aspect of knowing, because for want of language, we have to use the same word, because ultimately it is knowledge in true sense. But true sense, knowledge, you become the knowledge or you become the knower. There is not knowing in it, that is a being it. Whereas in the case of the transactional knowledge, we don't become mathematics, we don't become cooking, we don't become anything else. They are all known through our faculty of the antakarana. As knowledge, even though it is called knowledge, that is called transactional knowledge. So clarity has to be there between the two.
Okay, but when it comes to the knowing of reality, this is the general public usage of the word, then it is being that is the only way to know that. If you want to use that word, know, being that. But then the Advaita people also say you are always that. You did not know that, you need not become that, because the real reality is that always. But by mistake, you thought that you are this individual, the ahankara inside this antakarana, but your real reality is always that being and knowing, but it is a mistaken identity. So we don't newly know, like every day we newly know many things, but then when it comes to that wholeness, then it is not new. Our real reality was always that.
That's right. We are
So
always this very moment. All of us are that only. But the problem is that we are considering ourselves with the body and the ego. The moment we think we are what we are not, we do not know our true nature, because it is just like seeing the snake and the rope, or seeing the mirage and the water. There is no water, but we see the mirage. We see the snake, but we don't know the rope. But the moment we know the truth, that we are not the body, we are not the ego, and we are not what we thought till this very moment what we are. But we cannot deny that we do not exist at that time. So there is a shift in our knowing of what we are, that we are not the body and the ego, but we are something always present in us as the knower of everything, knower of the body, knower of the ego. And that knower of the ego and the body is not anymore a object to be known, but the very subject which was knowing. That shift will happen, and that is the time when we know that we have been always there with us. We don't have to know ourselves separately, because in this very moment you are knowing yourself. That is why you are knowing, you are using your intellect and faculties for instruments like. So that knowledge will be a type of a covering the ignorance, removing the ignorance and knowing your own true nature.
Thanks, Binduji. I'll continue next week with my questions because time's up. Thanks, Artemisia.
Thank you.
Please, you can.
Thank you, Jay. What you brought out of Bindo just now is a really beautiful way to end the room. Before I have Bindo speak anything he wishes, thank you, everyone, for being receptive to this kind of structured way that makes it really a work and last to have Bindoji with us regularly. So join us next weekend for Q&A at the same time on Saturdays and Sundays, and join the house Advaita Vedanta a satsang. Anyone can join it if you want to be part of the Upanishad teachings, the next of which is Wednesday evening. So very, very beautiful. Again, anyone who didn't come up, even someone who might be shy or feel their question is perhaps not as well formulated, you should come up and never miss the opportunity. Binduji, would you like to say anything else to all of us?
No, only my request to those who are hesitating, because when I am talking and explaining, I don't read the chats, and in most of the rooms I don't get reading the chat. So if you write anything in the chats, I have to go to replay and read the chats later after the replay is been available. So my request is that please come up and talk rather than putting your questions in the chat, which I can't read unless somebody like Raj or Artemisia can read it for me. And that too, if they find time to, slip in a question in between. So it will be better if you come up and ask the question rather than putting it in the chat form. That's my request. Thank you, Artemisia. You can wind up anything further, or we can close the room.
Yeah, I'll just go ahead and close it in a moment. And also, don't worry about your English, or even if you have to ask the question of Bindo in some other language, that's fine. And he'll speak in English.
I can handle up to 8 languages in India.
Yeah.
So if you have any one of them, don't worry about your language. Maybe some languages I understand, but I'll be able to answer only in English. But most of the languages I understand in Indian languages.
Okay, very beautiful. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for being here, and especially to Binduji. Very much gratitude to you, Bindo, and we'll just close the room.
Thank you. Thank you, Jadavida, also.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.